Okay. Yes, the class is being recorded, so hopefully I will post the recording on Learn after the session for the benefit of those that were not in class today, right? So like I was saying, Dr. Hema, myself, Patrick, and Maximino going to be coordinating this program. And like I was saying, the class itself is a week-long intensive session whereby you're expected to be in class every 9 a.m. on the same link, the same module link, the same Zoom link, sorry, that you joined the session with today for the rest of the week and also on Monday next week. So tomorrow Tuesday and Wednesday, Maximino will come in to take you on some session, and then I will come back on Thursday and Friday to also take you on other sessions, and then Dr. Heyman will come in on Monday to conclude the session with the topic on sustainability. Okay. So quickly, let's just discuss the aims and objective. I will just be as fast as possible with this, and then we go to the main gist of today. So the essence of the course is just for us to understand basic principles and theories as relating to project management. And in the case of this unique class, it will not be to understand, but to contextualize these principles as well as to remind ourselves of these principles. I suppose that I'm speaking to professionals. You have been in the field, you have practiced these things, the things in which we'll be talking about probably unconsciously. What we're going to be doing practically for the rest of the week is just to put a name to the things you have been doing before, right? And to probably remind ourselves on some of these things. So basically that's what we'll be doing in the course of the program. So we'll be able to apply these concepts. And like I said, in your case, it's just to remind ourselves of the concepts in which you're already applying in your everyday practice, right? And to put a name to some of the things you probably have taken for granted in the course of your practice. So, so upon completion, we expect that you'll be able to apply advanced knowledge and procedure in in project management and evaluation from a human rights perspective, right? We also expect that you understand basic concept and principle and approach to both project planning, implementation, and management in various community development contexts. This is very key in the course of this session, right? And then basic evaluation principles, we're expecting that you will have a grasp knowledge on this at the end of the session. And also relevant methods available in the implementation of projects, as well as the evaluation of projects. So basically, these are the things in which we'll be looking at. And like I said, there are things in which you are familiar with. There are the things in which you have done over time. And so ideally, this session should be more of a conversation than a teaching session. So I'll be expecting you to share your experience. I'll be expecting you to stop me at any point and either contributes to, most definitely contributes to the point in which you are going to be raising. And I'll be expecting that in the course of this session, we'll be learning from each other, all right? As much as possible, I am just coordinating this class. I am not doing anything above that, beyond that, just coordinating. We will be sharing our experiences as we move along. Are we together? Are we together?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much. As we move, you will hear a lot of "Are we together?" So that I will know that we are still in the session together and I'm not moving alone. So quick housekeeping issues. We're going to be having 3 assessments. There's no exam for this course. It is a continuous assessment module. So we're going to be having 3 assessments, 2 case studies and 1 reflection paper, which will be announced by each sessional lecturer. What I imply by that is that at the end of this class today, I am going to announce my own assignment, right? And it's going to be a case study. Marks will also come in by tomorrow and next tomorrow and also give you another assignment, which is also going to be a case study. While Dr. Hema will come in at the last day of the session of the program to also give you another assignment, which is going to be a reflection paper. So like I said, it's going to be a week-long intensive session. My assignment is going to be, I'll probably give you 3 weeks to submit that assignment. And then the same will apply to Max as well as to Dr. Heyman. They will give you they will also announce the assignment and also tell you the deadline for submission. So it's expected that for you to pass this module, you must attempt all 3 assignments and come up with the necessary session on that. Second is the fact that the classes are compulsory. It's expected that you come to class every day. And like I said, it's going to be a week-long intensive session, right? And so 9 a.m. every morning, we're expected to be here. I understand today that we have some confusion as relating to when we are supposed to start and what course we're supposed to be involved in. And on behalf of the coordinators, I want to apologize on that for the multiple emails that you received and the confusion of not knowing if you are supposed to be in this class or in another class at 10:30. So that is understood. But going forward.
Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I just want to ask you, because in the Zoom link, it wasn't showing up the finishing time. It's just the starting time. It's 9. And what time do we finish? Okay,
so ideally the class is supposed to the session is technically for 3 hours.
All right.
So it's depending on the course content in which you are supposed to cover and the lecturer's discretion. You may probably spend less than 3 hours, but tentatively it's supposed to be for 3 hours.
Oh.
Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And today, ideally, we're supposed to start at 9 to end the class at 12. And today we are starting at 10. And I will see what we can do to ensure that we still finish within the time frame in which we are supposed to finish. So yeah. So basically that's how the class we go going forward. It's going to be from 9 to 12. Okay. So the contact session, that's what I just explained now. It is going to be from 9 to 12 daily, right? 9 to 12 daily via Zoom. It's going to be the same Zoom link for the whole of the week. So you don't need another. So all you just need to do is just click on the one I've sent to you today for you to be in class for the rest of the week. There will be reading activities. We're going to be posting on Learn some papers for you to read, some reading assignments for you to digest. Please ensure you read through them. They are for your own benefits so that some of the things in which we'll be discussing in class, you can read further on them. And then when you come to class, you can raise these questions and then we can benefit from them all together, and we can also address your concerns and anywhere you have challenges. Okay, so there's also going to be a discussion session on Moodle. the way the discussion session works is that we will post a topic on Moodle, and everybody's supposed to contribute to the topic. It's like having a WhatsApp group, right? But instead of having it on WhatsApp, you're having it on Moodle, and it is assessed. It's going to be assessed. In this way, what we will do is you are supposed to contribute a minimum of 3 times to each of the topic in which will be posted. So you respond, but your contribution is going to be a response to that particular topic, as well as probably responses to what your colleagues would have posted on Moodle. And when we talk about the response, it's not for you to just write, I agree with A, B, C, and D. You will agree and give reasons why you agree, disagree and give reasons why you disagree. So basically, that's how the Moodle discussion will go. When the time for Moodle discussion comes, we are going to also explain further on how to go about that. Okay. Any question so far? Any question? Okay. If there's no question, we'll just continue.
Not on my side.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're just going to go into the business of the day. I just gave you the preamble to the entire course in itself. And then today we just start what we need to do. I must raise that in this class, I will expect us to have, it's like I said, it's going to be a discussion. So please, I will expect us to contribute. Because I am not looking at my screen, or better still, just give me a minute. What I will do is to log in on another device so that I can see your names. But I'm not looking at my screen, I may not be able to see who is contributing at what time. So what I'm saying is that the class in itself is going to be a discussion session. So there is no right answer, there's no wrong answer. We are just going to be discussing experience. So please feel free to give us your opinion on whatever topic in which, whatever thing in which we are discussing. Be free to give us your opinion on that. I want to see if this will echo. If it doesn't echo, that would be great.
Recording in progress.
Okay. I need to find. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's echoing. Can we all hear me?
There is echo, a lot of echo.
Okay. Okay, is this still echoing? Can you all hear me?
Yes, much better now.
Okay, great. I want to log in on my other phone so while I'm using the computer to teach so that I can call names. That's the reason why I am having this now. Okay, so like I said, the session in itself is going to be interactive. You are welcome to unmute yourself or just raise up your hand at any point, and I will recognize you to contribute to this session, right? So essentials of project management is what we want to look at today. And the aim of today's class is we are going to be conceptualizing what project management is. Like giving different definitions to project management, the meaning, the fundamentals, components, and types of projects. We're going to discuss project management in itself, meaning of project management, constraint and objective and benefits of project management. We're going to look at systems approach to projects, I think I raised it while we were waiting for others to join us. When Mr. Ndua raised the point on what is happening in the country, if we have things to share. And when we talk about the systems project, approach to projects, we'll be discussing things that happen in the country and how it affects us and how it affects our projects. That's what we'll be discussing when we discuss the systems approach to projects. So I am hoping that it's going to be an interesting engagement. And also your assignments will be around the systems approach to projects. So when we come to that space, we expect you have extra ears. So if probably you have 2 ears now, please have like 7 or probably maybe 10 ears to that discussion. So we'll discuss project management systems, we'll discuss project management process, steps in managing a project, performing SWOT analysis of a project, models for the study and application of projects. So these are the things in which we'll be discussing today. And we're supposed to discuss this in 3 hours. I don't know how that will happen. Ideally, each of this lecture, each of this topic, or each of this sub-aim that we have for today is to take us an average of 45 minutes to discuss each of these, which will be an approximately 6 hours lecture. And we were supposed to discuss the 6 hours lecture in 3 hours. And now it has been dropped down to 2 hours for us to discuss it in 2 hours because we are targeting ending this class at 12. So we'll see what we can do. We'll probably be as fast as we can and also as slow as possible to ensure that everybody is carried along. So please, by saying that, we want to appeal that if I am too fast in my discussion of these topics, don't hesitate to draw my attention back. I am happy to repeat myself as many times as possible for you to understand each of the things in which we are going to be discussing today. So please bring me back as many times as you can, right? And then I will go back to it as often as possible till everybody is on the same page, right? Are we together? Are we together, guys?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So quickly, let's go into objective 1. Let's discuss project conceptualization. That's the definition to a project. Okay, so what is a project? Let's start with that. What is a project? Anybody? Anybody that wants to contribute to that? What is a project? Buniswa,
Good morning.
Yeah, go ahead. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Zanele. Greetings to the team as well. My understanding of a project, a project is something that has a starting time and an ending time, like it's got a time frame, something that will start and finish within a specific time. That is the understanding I have when it comes to the project as a term.
Okay,
Thank
you very
you.
much. Thank you very much. That's beautiful. Something that has a time frame. Okay. Any other contribution to that? Maybe 1 or 2 before we go ahead. Any other addition to that? Anybody? Anybody?
Yes, Nomosa here.
Yes, go ahead, Nomusa.
Yes. According to my understanding, a project, it's something with a lifespan that has a beginning and an end.
Wow,
Just
that's
like that.
That's beautiful. I like that too. Something with the lifespan, right? That's the beginning and the end, right? The first colleague talked about something that has a time frame, right? And you raised the point, something with the lifespan. Okay, that's beautiful. I think we'll continue on that ground. Okay, Nompilo, your mic is unmuted. You want to add something to that?
Yes, I just wanted to say that it's actually something that is unique, be it a service or a product or, or a result of something.
Wow, that's beautiful. Adding that to what has been said before, you said a unique product, service, or a service. That is beautiful. Yeah, everything you have said, you've said is what a project is, right? You are correct when it comes to your conceptualization of a project. So when we talk about a project, we said a project is a problem scheduled for solution. That's the first thing when we talk about projects. When we say it is something, right? What we imply is that it is something. That's something that we tend to say a project is. It is a problem that is scheduled for a solution. Basically, that's what a project is. And when we talk about a problem as a concept of projects, we're talking about where we are, the gap between where we are and where we want to be. Where we are is the problem. Where we want to be is the solution, is our end point. So the project itself is trying to find a solution to where we want to be, trying to close the gap between where we are and where we want to be. So basically, that's the idea of a project. Every project is targeted at a particular problem. There is a problem that needs a solution. There is a need to meet up with a particular.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and you have a contribution? Okay. So we said a project is something that requires a solution. And I want us to have this at the back of our mind as we continue the session. That we said the project is a problem that is scheduled for solution, right? And the problem is where we are and where we want to be, the gap between where we are and where we want to be, right? So the obstacle in between, we're trying to take away that obstacle in order to close up the gap between where we are and where we want to be. So when we define a problem, we must answer this question. First, we must ask ourselves, what is the desired end state or the outcome that we intend to achieve? What do we imply by that? When I said a problem is where we are and where we want to be, we must know our end state. We must know, when do we know that we are where we want to be? For instance, if I am in Durban and I want to be in PMB, in Peter Marisburg, that itself is a problem, in the sense that I feel I am supposed to be in PMB at this point. But when I get to PMB, how will I know that I am in PMB? So that's one question in which you need to ask yourself when you want to define the problem. What is your desired end state? What is your desired outcome? So that's the first question in which you want to know. What is your desired outcome? So in this case, my desired outcome is to be in PMB. So that becomes a project to consider. If I want to contextualize it within the same place of this class, we can say that this program is a project in itself, because you were without a certificate. At the beginning of this year, or probably maybe sometimes last year, you were without a certificate, right? And then you told yourself you need a certificate. And then you said, okay, I need a certificate in our community development. And then for that reason, you that was the end point, being in community development. Then there are some things in which you had to put in place to ensure you had the certificate. First is applying for admission. Second is now you have an admission, you need to be in class, then you need to pass the module, and then you need to, then at the end of the day, sometimes next year, you will be wearing the gown, the graduation gown that you have graduated. So basically that is the end state. So the end state is what? Is to have the certificate at the end of the day. So that's one. Then the next question you ask yourself after determining what your end state is or your outcome is to ask yourself, what are those things that prevent you from achieving that particular outcome? So first you determine your outcome. Secondly, you determine what are those things that prevent you. What are the factors? What are the indices that make achieving your outcome difficult? You need to identify those things. This is problem identification. Then you need to know when you have achieved the desired results. When will you say that that result has been achieved? So that is key in your discussion of your problem. So basically that's that one we discuss what a problem is. Now, like we said, a project is a problem that is scheduled for a solution. Another definition of a project is that it's a collection of simultaneous and sequential activities which together produce an identifiable outcome of value. The key points to note in this definition is the collection of simultaneous and sequential activity, which implies that there are stages that needs to be met. There are stages that you need to pass through in order to achieve your desired outcome, in order to what? To solve that particular problem in which you intend to solve, right? So we said it's a collection of simultaneous and sequential activity. Simultaneous in the sense that there are activities that may be going on together at the same time. I'm going to stick to this example that I just gave now as relating to, let's say, this achieving your diploma certificate is your postgraduate certificate is the project. Simultaneous activities will be you attending this class. While you are attending this class, you are attending Dr. Ntini's class. You are also attending the Mr. Ndua class. You are attending Professor Zembe class. These are simultaneous activities, all in a bid to have this certificate at the end of the day. Then these activities are also sequential. Sequential in the sense that you have a class today, you have a class tomorrow, you have a class next tomorrow, you have a class next week, and then you have an assignment to complete, you have an exam to write, you have a project to also write. They are all sequential. So they happen one after the other. You must finish one to move to the next one. These are what we refer to as what? As sequential activity. And then in the simplest form, we can say a project, like the definition which our colleagues have given just now, it is regarded as an endeavor that has a beginning and an end. It is an endeavor with a beginning and an end. And like we raised, it is an endeavor with a time frame, or we say an endeavor with a lifespan. So, and when we talk about lifespan, it's the same thing as a time frame, in the sense that there's a point whereby you bet that project, and there's a point whereby that project has to what? Has to die a natural death, either natural or forced death. That's what we call the project closure, of which we will discuss over time, right? And then we said projects, it comprises of set of principles, methods, tools, and techniques for effective management of objective-oriented work. At the end of the day, all this definition goes back to this. We said a project is a problem that is scheduled for solution. Problem that is scheduled for solution. So all these things, this speaks to the fact that there has to be an outcome that we are pushing for, right? So basically that's the idea of a project. And then comprehensively, we said a project is series of activities and tasks that has specific objective to be completed within specification, have identified start dates and end dates, has funding limits, consume human and other resources, and are what? Multifunctional. This encompasses the whole concept of a project. In this definition, you realize that we implies that the project must have a start and end date. It has a lifetime, a lifespan. It must have funding, right? So there's capital resources that is involved in a project. It must consume human and capital resources in the sense that there have to be people that will be involved in the project, apart from the materials that you are going to use for the project. And it is always multifunctional. So basically, these are different definitions to a project. From these definitions, we can identify the fundamentals that are present in a project. First, projects are one-time efforts. Like we said, they have a cycle. They are one-time efforts. They have the time you bet them and the time they die, either a natural or forceful death. There's always a life cycle to a project. They are unique in itself, like what one of us just raised now. Projects are unique, right? Every project has its core something that is unique to that specific project. It has something that is unique to it. And then we say projects require resources. You cannot have projects without resources, even if it's a volunteering project, even if the project that is somebody is paying for it, right? And the payment for a project does not necessarily imply money. It can be in the sense of time. It can be in the sense of the people that are involved in ensuring that that project is successful, right? So when we talk about the resources for a project, we're talking about both human and capital resources for the project. So we'll talk about money, time, and people that are required for a project. And we'll talk about project management, we'll explain further on this concept of resources. These are the fundamentals to a project. And then we said the project have limited and controlled time span. A project does not continue forever. You cannot have a project that is timeless. It must have a deadline. It must have a target it needs to achieve. It can be a 2 years project, a 3 years project. It can be a 10 years project, but it must have an end point. And at each point, there are deliverables that we intend to meet up with, right? So basically, yes, along the way.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to ask you, is this slide going to be shared on our Moodle?
I mostly I don't, but yes, I can. I'll probably share the slide. Oh yes, I'll share this. I'll share both the slides and the recording to the session.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, you can go.
Okay. So so like I said, projects have limited time. They cannot continue forever, and they change. They're about change. They address a particular problem and bring about solution to that particular problem. So it's all about change. And then they have defined outcomes. Like I said, without a defined outcome, you will not know when that project itself has been achieved, right? So there are well-defined outcomes. And because you know your outcome, you have a direction to getting there, which are what? Deliverables. There are things in which you can say, okay, even when you have a 10 years project or a 20 years project as it is, there are specific things, milestones that you intend to meet up with. So there are specific milestones, there are specific deliverables. There are deliverables in the sense that you know when you are where in a particular state, right? You can define that. You define that by the deliverables of that particular project, right? And then when we talk about the components of a project, we have 3 components to a project. So a project is divided into milestones, activity, as well as deliverables. When we talk about milestones, we're talking about the markers to a project. They are the project markers, right? It's like when you are going on a journey. A project itself is a journey. That's another definition to a project, right? It's a journey, right? You should be able to tell yourself that, okay, if I am going from Durban to Pinetown, so from Durban to PMB, right? There should be milestones. There should be markers to show that I am actually in the right direction. That I am not going to, instead of going to N2, I should not find myself in N3 or N4, right? I should not find my way on the way to Cape Town when I am going to PMB or when I'm going to Johannesburg, right? So the markers are those things, specific targets in which you want to meet in the course of your projects, your projects. And then we have activities. Activities are the smallest unit of work which you need to put into your project, right? The things in which you do to ensure that you meet up with, there's a continuous progress in your project. So basically they are referred to as what? As activities. And then, yes, Musa? Ntombela, are you with us or against us?
Yes.
Can you please just mute him, Patrick? Can you please mute him because he's doing something else? He's talking to other people.
Yeah. Okay, I think Musa have done that to himself. Okay, so let's continue. So basically, these are the activities, and then we'll talk about project deliverables, right? They are tangible, verifiable accomplishments and routes the final end of your project, right? They are tangible. You can see the accomplishments in which you have, the things in which you have achieved in the course of your project. So these are the components of a project, right? So we talk about the project fundamentals. These are the components, your milestone, your activities, and your deliverable. And there are different types of projects, right? There are different types of projects. We have manufacturing projects, management projects, research projects, development projects, right? So a lot of projects in which you can look at. I will not bore you with discussing one after the other the types of projects in which you have. Like I said, every activity can be a project in the sense that, or better still, you can identify any problem and make that problem a project, right? When you have a desired outcome and then there's a need to achieve that particular outcome. Your project can be a major project and it can also be a mini project, right? So it's not a project that has a launching, has a big space. It can just be a project within yourself and something in which you have set out to achieve, right? Within a particular time scale. That itself can be a project. The most important is the keyword, a problem that needs a solution. So we have all these as type of projects, maintenance, administrative, construction, and the like. So I will not bore you with that. So the first, this is a question in which we need to consider. What's the difference between an organizational process and a project? From our definition of a project, what's the difference between an organizational process and a project? And then what's the difference between programs and projects? Do we have anybody that wants to contribute to that? The difference between organizational process and a project. Okay, I will just move forward with this on the ground that this question probably may be before its time, and in the sense that Marks tomorrow and next tomorrow will be discussing organizational processes, and you probably will be able to understand more when we discuss organizational process. So I'll just explain. When we talk about organizational process, there are activities within an organization that is ongoing. It repeats itself, right? The activity within an organization that is ongoing, it does not necessarily have a time frame, right? It is ongoing. And like we said, in the case of a project itself have a lifespan. It has a beginning and an end date. So while a project has a lifespan, an organizational process does not. Because it's easy for us to say, okay, an organizational process also try to solve a particular problem. But in the case of an organizational process, it is continuous, right? It is continuous. We do this, we move from A to B to C to D, come back to A, B, C, D, right? We continue the same process. And then in an organizational process, it produces the same outcome every time. You know, if what you do is to wake, eat, work, sleep, that's just what the organizational process is. Let's say in the activity of a day, you wake, you eat, you work, and you sleep. The following day, you do the same thing. Wake, sleep, work, sleep, right? That is it's the same activity you carry out over and over and over and over again. That's referred to as an organizational process. So if you carry out the same activity over and over again, what will you have? You have the same results over and over and over again. That is what an organizational process is. But like we said, in the case of a project is unique because it tends to address a particular problem and ensure that there is a change in that particular problem. An organizational process also is predefined. It has predefined work assignments. There's a job prescription for staff. We know what we are supposed to do every day. And I suppose we do that in our various offices. Each department and each session have a particular work they do. So you repeat the same kind of work every day. But in the case of a project, the assignments are not predetermined. You determine the assignment of the staff of the project in relation to the need of that particular project. So it's possible for you to come into a particular project today and you do a particular activity. There's a high possibility that when you come in to do the same project the next time, you will not be doing the same activity which you have done the previous time. So basically, that's the difference between organizational process and a project. These are the three major differences, though. First, like I said, organizational process is ongoing. You repeat the same activity, you get the same results, and you have predetermined work assignment. Your work assignments, your job description is predetermined. In the case of a project, it has a lifespan, it is unique in itself, and the activity are relational to the situation. It is situational. It depends on what needs to be carried out at that particular period. The same thing also applies to a program. In the set of program have what? Broad objective. Why a project have specific objective. A program have focus on strategic goals, why a project focus on what? On deliverables, specific deliverables, right? A program is managed by a program manager. A project is managed by a project manager. So basically, these are some of the things in which you want to be aware of when you discuss a project. So to conclude this session, this is just the introductory session of the class. We said a project a series of activities. A project is a series of activities that has specific objective to be completed within a specific time, certain specification. It has defined start date and end dates, has funding limits, consume human and non-human resources, and are multifunctional. So basically that's all when we discuss a project. Are we still together, or have I lost my class? Any question at this point?
We are here.
Okay, that's great. Any questions so far, or any contribution, something that I did not say that you want to add? Any question? Can we continue?
We can continue.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's go to objective 2. We want to discuss project management now. First, we have discussed a project. We know what a project is. What is project management? Anybody? What is project management? Can I have someone? Please go ahead.
Yes, I think it relates to the application now of the tools and the knowledge and the skills that you gain to actually carry out a project.
I like that. Application of tools to carry out a project. Skills that you've gained to carry out a project. I like that. Yes, can we have maybe 1 or 2 more before we continue? What is a project? What is project management? Anybody? Okay, so I do something in my class always, just to ensure that people are here and not that they just log in and then decide to go do other things. I've written several papers as relating to COVID and the educational system. And myself being a student also, I know what we do, in the sense that some of us will just log in and just for attendance sake, and we'll be doing a different thing. So because of that, I call names randomly just to ensure that you are in class. Even when you don't have anything to say, I will still expect you to give us a message of support. So just say hi to the class. So I'll probably be calling names randomly. Yes, Nompilo, I can see you are giving a surprise sign. That is true. So I'll be calling names randomly just to ensure that you are in class, right? Yes. Okay. Okay, at least with the fact that Nompilo and Londiwe gave the emojis, I will expect they are in class, so I will not call their names, at least for now, but I'll call later. Can I have Swezi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, to give us a message of support? What is project management? Yes, go ahead. Your mic is unmuted.
Morning, I'm Swazi.
Thank you very much.
As in Swaziland.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, is it Monday? Are you with us? Is it Monday?
Yes, good morning. Yes, I'm here. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yes, no, I'm still here.
Okay, that's great. Okay.
Yes, okay. I think I need to try and answer what is project management.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, it's whereby, as Nompilo has mentioned, where you apply now the knowledge that you've gained in order to coordinate the project from the beginning to the end. So it's part of the coordination, how good you can coordinate it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I like that. Coordination, application of knowledge. These are two things I hear from your definition: the coordination and the application of knowledge. This is key to the concept of project management. This is what I say. I say this a lot to students. In your case, you guys are special students, though. Is the fact that in the definition of any concept, what I've realized over time is to break the concept into different pieces, understand them differently, and then merge your understanding of all those pieces together. It's like a puzzle. Merge your understanding of all the pieces together, and you have a particular definition. 80% of the time, you will be correct. That's what I've realized. So I'll discuss project management. We know what a project is now, right? A project is a problem that needs a solution. A project is an endeavor that have a time space, that have a time span, right? We know what management is. Management is coordination, right? If I add this together, then I have what project management is. So I can say project management is managing projects. Does that make sense? Project management is managing a project. That's just what it implies. It's as simple as that. So project management, like we said in simple terms, is what? Managing a project. So when we talk about project management, we're talking about the situation of planning, scheduling, controlling, and the execution of project activity to meet the project objective. So we have an outcome that we intend to achieve. We have milestones that we have designed, and we have deliverables. So a project manager, quote and unquote, is the driver, is the person at the driving seats, at the wheel of a project that determine where the project goes to. So if we are going to PMB or we are going to Johannesburg, it is the project manager or it is project management that will ensure that we go to the right direction, that we don't find ourselves in Cape Town when we are supposed to be in Pretoria, right? So basically, that is what a project management, that's what project management is all about. That we don't find ourselves in Mozambique when where we are going is Swaziland. You get the idea? So basically, that's the idea of our project management. So it involves planning, scheduling, and controlling of project activities, right? And remember the components of a project we discussed and the fundamentals of a project, right? In every project, there are human and capital resources that are involved. So a project manager ensures the coordination of all the resources in a particular project and also bring about organization and direction of all these resources within the specified time frame, ensuring that the objective of the project is met. So basically, that's what we imply by project management. And basically, the entire objective of this course is to play around these different concepts of project management and discuss how do we plan? How do we plan a project? How do we organize a project? How do we direct and control resources to ensure that people do what they are supposed to do when they are supposed to do it, right? That's basically what project management is. I also like giving an example that a project manager is like the chef trying to prepare food. If you do not put in the right spices to the food, you're going to have what is not edible, right? So basically, that's what project managers are all about. So in essence, we say project management is managing a project to meet its objective. So that's what project management is. It is managing a project to meet its objective. So if project management is managing a project to meet its objective, what are the constraints? What are the challenges of project management? Any idea? What are project management constraints?
I think cost is one of them.
Costs. Thank you very much. Yes, costs. Any other? I can give you a clue. I think we have three.
Quality. What about
Qual-
quality, Patrick?
Quality, yes, yes. Quality is in between.
If I may come in, another thing that can be a constraint is the unforeseen circumstances like disasters that may interrupt the project's implementation.
Wow, that's beautiful. Unforeseen circumstances, yes. Any other? Okay, for the sake of time, I will just continue. The points you have raised are all very important when we discuss project management. Scope, thank you very much, Lamini. Scope, yes, these are important concepts in project management. So when we discuss the project management constraints, these are the four basic points in which we look at when we discuss project management constraint. First, we talk about the performance, we talk about the costs, the time, and the scope. These are the four concepts we discuss when we discuss project management, when we discuss the project management constraint. When we talk about performance, like a colleague just raised now, is the idea around quality, right? In the idea around quality, you want to discuss, ensure that the product or your outcome meets the particular standard in which you are set out for, right? And so you are looking at the quality of the quality of work that is being done. Is it meeting up to the standard that you have set out? And there are many things in which you want to consider as relating to the performance of your work. It is in that discourse of performance of your work that you want to look at issues around unforeseen circumstances that come up, ensuring that at the end of the day, you are not coming up. Are you all saying something? Is somebody saying something? Okay, I'll just continue. So like I said, you want to ensure that your work, your outcomes in the sense of your milestones, your deliverables this time are not substandard. They are not below what you set out to do. You cannot afford to settle for less when it comes to the performance of your work. And so this is actually a major constraint when it comes to a project, right? And then we'll talk about the cost of your projects, which has to do with what? The resources that is required for your project, both the human and the capital resources that's required for your project. You know, when we talk about we discuss the project activity, right? That's the project activity are the work, the units of work that you invest into your project in order to achieve the outcome in which you want to achieve. For you to be involved in that unit of work, you need what? You need to discuss time. Sorry, you need to discuss cost, right? The cost in the sense of the human and capital resources that go into it. So you're talking about, let's say if you're doing a particular project, a community project, for instance, you will be talking about the volunteers that you need to bring in, the drivers that will probably transport the goods that you will use, the goods in itself that you are going to be using for that particular project, right? So all these all these are costs to the project, right? And then we'll talk about time. Time is also very fundamental. Like we said, the project have a time frame. Because a project has a lifespan, a time frame, it implies that time is fundamental in the sense that you cannot afford to waste time in the course of your project. Every of the activity of a project is scheduled within a particular time frame. So if you tell yourself that this project is a 6-month project, it stays within a 6-month project, right? If it's a 1-year project, it should stay within a 1-year project, right? And I'll come back to this concept of time when I discuss scope. Scope is the magnitude of your work. Remember, I told you that your project may be a mini project and it may be a mega project. It may be a big project and may be a small project. Now, how does these three work together? If you say that your project is supposed to be for 6 months, if you extend your project beyond 6 months, what's the implication of that? Let me ask, let me put that out. If your project is supposed to be for 6 months and you extend it before 6 months, what is the implication for these other things, these other constraints that we raise? Any idea? I hope you got my question.
Yes, can I come in? It's no more,
Please.
sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I think budget is one of the most or important factor that will affect almost everything. Based on the fact that they are everything that you are doing depending on the budget that you have put in when you first a budget for the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any other addition? What happens to your project if you increase the time frame? Any other person?
Good morning, it's
Yeah.
Senamile.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if you increase the duration of the projects, then it means the cost also will increase.
Thank you very much for that. The cost will also increase, right? So this is the idea for me when I always love using this, the triangular space. In most cases, when we discuss the project, right? The project constraint. So we always have at the top here. Can you see my console?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, so this place, we can say, we can put one of the costs. We can say the cost is here. Here we have the scope, right? And here we have the time. You get that? The middle is where the performance is. Does that make sense? Are we together? Are we together?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me see if I can do some writing. I always love it to be practical as possible. So, okay, so I'm assuming that this thing is hanging. Okay, so I want to demonstrate what happens. I want to demonstrate what happens to a project when it comes to the project's constraints. Wow. Okay. Okay, great. So let's see. This is time. Let's say this is what? This is and So this is the scope. And what do we have here? Scope time. This is the cost, right? And then here we have what? Can you remember? Performance. Good. So this is the performance, right? So this is your project, right? At every time, your performance must be a perfect triangle. That's the quality, that is when the quality of your work is, this is what determines the quality of your work, right? When we want to say your performance is up to standard, it must be a perfect triangle, right? And for you to have a perfect triangle, it must be a fusion of the time of the project, the scope of the project, as well as the costs of the project. Are we together? So what happens is that when there is a fluctuation in any of this, the scope, the cost, and the time, if, okay, no, I don't need this again. He's still writing. Okay, good. Good. Now, so like I was saying, this has to be a perfect triangle at all times. If it happens that the cost of your project increases, if the cost of your project increases, what is supposed to happen is that they are all supposed to increase. So if costs increase, if the cost increase, they see, it implies that the time will also increase and the scope will also increase because they are all in perfect triangle. But if you have a situation whereby cost is increasing and the time or scope is not increasing, what you're going to have is a fluctuated triangle. It implies that it will have an effect on the performance of your project, right? The same thing applies. If you increase time, right, and you did not increase the cost and the scope, it was what? You realize that it will have an effect on your project. The same thing also applies to scope. If you increase scope and time and the cost is not increased, it has an effect on the perfect triangle of your project. So what happens at all times when we discuss the project constraint is that as project managers, we must be concerned about these three, about the whole components of the constraint. So if your cost is increasing, the implication is that the scope should also increase, right? The scope should also increase and the time should also increase, right? And like we raised, we need to go back to our budgeting once our time is increased. And the same thing also applies that if the scope of your project is reduced, then the cost of the project as well as the time for that project is also supposed to be reduced. Take a case in point. If the scope of a particular project was to look at, say, the whole of KZN, right? And we said we want to do a project in KZN, and we are looking at the cost of, say, 1 million rands to do a project in KZN, the whole of KZN, for 1 year, right? If we decide that we are no longer doing the whole of KZN, and now we want to focus on eThekwini alone, right? It implies, or better still, we want to focus on just Durban alone. It implies that the cost is supposed to drop drastically from 1 million to, say, maybe 200,000 or 500,000, right? So basically that's that when we discuss a project's constraint. So just take note of that. So that is the idea of this calculation in which we have here, that constraints are related to each other on the basis of this calculation we have. So cost is a function of performance, time, and scope. So the same thing can apply when you decide to switch the calculation in itself. The scope is also a function of cost, performance, and time. So the cost of a project is always the function of your performance plus your time plus your scope. Does that make sense? Am I still speaking English or I'm speaking gibberish now? Okay, thank you very much for the sign. Okay, so basically that's that one we discuss the project management constraint. So we talk about the cost, the time, the scope, and the performance. And we said the cost is a function of your performance, your time, and your scope. So this is how it works, right? This is an example of it. You see your costs, you see your scope, and you see your time. And like I said, the more you expand on one, you have to expand on the other. So basically that's that. So the benefit of project management, I was going to ask this. These are some of the benefits of project management. I'm just going to run through them so that we go to more juicy stuff before we end the session, right? So it's reduced time. It ensures that you achieve your purpose. In the sense of measurement of accomplishment against plan. You will detect problem at the early hour. Like I said, because you have deliverables and you have milestones, you will know when you are not following the direction of your project, right? If you are supposed to be in PMB and you find yourself in Eastern Cape, you will know. You identify the problem at the early stage and you'll be able to solve that particular problem. You minimize the need for continuous reporting. You reduce risks. You increase the efficiency of your project and the like. So basically that's that when we talk about the benefits of a project. So let's go to this very juicy space, which is the systems approach to a project. The systems approach to a project. This is key. And when we started the class, or while we are waiting for everybody to join us, remember I said you should think about the events that happen in your environment and how they affect you, right? So basically this is where it operates. In our discourse of the systems approach, right? I think I need to just, let's just hide all this for now. In our discourse of the systems approach, the idea of a system operates like the body, like our body. The systems approach in itself wants to identify a project. The argument of a system approach is that we want to identify a project. We said that there's nothing that happens in a vacuum, right? There is always cause and effect in the environment. There's a way the environment itself operates. People operate within the environment. Nobody is an island, right? Your projects that you want to carry out also is also not an island in itself. It is operating within the course of a particular environment. And your project is the function of the environment. There's always an interaction between yourself and your environment. The same thing also applies to your project. It's an interaction between yourself and your environment. Remember what we said the project is? We said the project is a solution, is a problem that is scheduled for a solution, right? And we said that in every project, there's always a milestones, there's always deliverables, there's always an outcome to achieve and the likes, right? So basically, these are the ideas of a project. And the same thing applies when we discuss the systems theory, right? So in the systems theory, the argument is that, like I said, the project is not in a vacuum. the project reacts to the environment in which the project finds itself, right? And the environment determines the project in as much as the project also determines the environment, right? So basically that is the idea when we discuss the system. Now, looking at it from that space, in every system, there are 5 components of every system. First, we'll talk about the input component of a system, the output component of a system, the transformation component of a system, the environment of a system, as well as the feedback. All right. I'm going to take away this place just so that I want to have a clean space, and then we'll discuss that one after the other. I'm going to come back to the slide to discuss that again, to discuss the slide. So, like I said, a system, it has the inputs, output, transformation. The transformation is also called the throughput. You can call the transformation phase the throughput. And then we have feedback. And we have the environments. Okay. I suppose we are all familiar with the computer, right? You remember what they say about computer? They say garbage in, garbage out. Have you heard that before? Garbage in, garbage out. Has anybody heard that statement?
Yes.
Good. Garbage in, garbage out, right? That is how a system also operates, right? It operates in the space of garbage in, garbage out. Remember that we said that for us to understand the system's components, which will go back to that diagram. For us to understand the system components, we said a project is what? An activity, right? Project equals to, I think I need to expand this so that we can all see. So project equals to activity, problem, right? Basically, this is what a project is. A project is an activity or a problem. A problem with a time frame or life cycle, like we say. Right? Now, in every project, there is, I think the first thing we should talk about when we discuss the system in most cases is we will talk about the environment. I think it's always nice to start with the environment. So every project happens within a particular environment, right? And the environment itself is both culture, the culture, right? The economy, and the culture, the economy, politics. What else is in the environment? Culture, economy, politics, the social. Social also is okay. In most cases, we say socio-cultural. So we can have the socio-cultural here. Okay. So the environment of a project is everything that we know within a particular society. The society itself is the environment of the project. Remember I said that nobody is an island. All of us are within a particular environment, right? We are within a particular society. So The environment is always the characteristics of our society, the features, what makes up that particular society, what are the basic features of that society. So in discussing a project, first it's important for us to understand the environment of the project. What is the culture of the people, right? What is the culture of the people? What is the way of life of the people? The culture, we say culture is the way of life of the people, right? So we want to understand their way of life, and the discourse of their way of life. What do you think we need to be looking at? We'll be looking at their belief system, right? My computer is acting up. We'll look at their belief. We'll look at their belief system. We are going to look at their orientations. We are going to look at what else do you want to look at when you look at the culture of people? Any addition? When you go to a particular environment and you want to assess the culture of the people, what are the things, the indication in which you are going to look at?
Yeah, language. I think
Language. Thank you very much. Language, right? Education, right? These are some of the things which you want to look at, right? So under the sociocultural, the sociocultural features of the environment, we are going to be looking at, you need to focus on this, right? Belief system and orientation, the food, their language, education, and the likes. This is important, right? You want to concern about this. The reason is that, for instance, you don't want to go to an environment whereby I'm trying to look at something that is controversial. Good. Let's say same-sex marriage, right? Same-sex marriage, gay and lesbian. I suppose we are familiar with same-sex marriages, right? Are we familiar with same-sex marriage?
Yes.
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 So now, if let's pick same-sex marriage as an example. You don't want to go to an environment that is a Christian-oriented environment and you want to preach same-sex marriage. Do you think that will work?
Nope.
Thank you very much. So we need to be concerned about, ask ourselves, if, let's say, we want to, our project is to resolve an issue as relating to same-sex marriage. We cannot go to an environment that is Christian-oriented to discuss same-sex marriage. Or better still, if you look at the issue of contraception and abortion, right? You cannot also go to an environment that is religiously inclined to discuss abortion, especially our very traditional environment, right? Where they believe in the sanity of the fact that a woman is supposed to stay as celibate, is supposed to avoid sex and the likes. And then you go to an environment like that, you want to implement an awareness on the use of condom, right? Or the discourse on abortion, right? You will need to be concerned about the environment in which you are discussing this, right? So that goes to what? To the orientation and the belief system of that environment. Talking about language, you cannot go to an environment that is, let's say, a typical Zulu community, right? And you want to implement a particular program in that community, and your mode of communication is English. Does that make sense? You realize that that is not visible. If you do that in an environment whereby, or better still, you want to implement a particular project, and then in a Zulu community, And then you take me, for instance, that the only Zulu I know is Sabona and Njani, right? And you take me to that particular community to implement a project that is in a typical Zulu community. Do you think that will work? What do you think will happen to a project like that?
It won't be successfully.
It won't work, yeah.
It won't work. It won't be successful, right? So you see, we need to be concerned about the environment, right? And then also we need to look at the education of the people and the like. So in the system approach to a project, the first thing we need to be concerned is to look at the environment. The socio-cultural characteristics of the environment is important. And then we also want to look at the economy of that particular environment. Is it a rich economy? Is it a welfareist economy? Is it a capitalist economy? Is it a socialist economy? These are different concepts in which I will expect that you have an idea on, or probably you want to read about it. But we'll talk about the socialist economy. Is that an economy whereby it is controlled by the states, right? The state government has a larger control on industries and the means of production in that particular place. You want to ask yourself that question. Is it a capitalist economy in the sense that people are encouraged to own their own businesses, right? Or the difference between a capitalist economy is that more people, individuals own businesses in a capitalist economy. In the socialist economy, it's the government that owns those businesses, right? So these are things in which you want to ask yourself, what is the economy of that particular place? Is the community a rich community, or are they poor, right? You also want to be concerned about the politics of that particular environment. What is the political configuration of the environment? Are they all ANC, right? Are they all ANC? Are they majority ANC? Or do you have majority EFF or DA, right? Or is it a mixture of these particular parties, right? You want to be concerned about that. You also want to be concerned, are these people politically active or are they politically passive? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by politically active and passive? Any idea? Anybody want to help us with that? I want to be sure I'm not using words that I'm the only one understanding myself. That way I've lost my class. Any idea what politically active is and political passiveness?
Can I get a question again, ma'am?
I said, what is the difference between, what is the meaning of politically active and political passive? What do you mean by that?
Politically active is to participate politically, to be very clear of what is happening around the environment that we are in maybe taking decisions and making some contribution. But to be passive, to be politically passive is to be there and then not taking maybe any political decisions, but just to observe, maybe does not have that much of a say.
Okay, thank you very much. That encompasses it. So you need to ask yourself this question when you go to a particular environment. Are the people that are conscious politically, that are involved in the decision-making in their environment, or there are people that they are just fine with anything that happens, like whatever happens, they are fine with it and all the likes. And when we discuss politics and the economy and the likes, there's a fusion between politics and economy, right? And you need to also be familiar with that. For instance, what Mr. Andua was saying when we started the class of the interaction between Russia and the BRICS countries and South Africa, for instance, right? The interaction within this general politics, how does it affect you, right? I remember I said for those people that were in class that look at the things that happen in your environment, or better say the news that are happening. How does this news affect you as a person? How does that news affect your projects? You need to be concerned about that. How does the politics of the environment or the politics of South Africa or the country in which you are practicing your particular project, how do the politics of that country affect your projects? How do they, the economy of that country, how does it affect your projects? What's the implication of that economy to your projects? In sense of the policies that are being implemented in the project, in the country and the likes, how do they affect your project? This is very key in your analysis of the systems approach, right? So like I said, we start with what? The environment. And the reason we start with the environment in the system approach, because everything is within a particular environment. And it's important for us to do what? To understand the context of that environment. So summarily, I said, environment is what? Understanding so you must understand. So in your discourse of environment, what you are concerned about is understanding the context and feature of, let me not use environment again, context and feature of the society what am I typing? So you must understand the context and feature of the society in which you find yourself. You, in this sense, your project. So you must understand the context and feature of the community you and your projects find yourself. Let me put and here. So this is very important. Are you contributing? Okay, so in the discourse of environment in the systems approach, we want to understand the context and feature of the society in which we find ourselves. The next thing you need to understand in the systems approach is the inputs, right? The inputs are the resources and the activities that you put in place that goes into your projects. They are referred to as what? The inputs. They are those things that go into your projects. So resources in terms of both human and capital resources. Human and capital resources that goes into your projects, right? They are the inputs. So in this sense, you also discuss the coordination of both of all these things, right? When we talk about human resources, like I was giving an example in a few minutes ago, you talk about, say, the drivers that are involved, those people the volunteers that you're going to be using, right? Every person that is going to be involved in your project, they are the human resources. The capital resources in terms of the costs, the financial resources that comes into it, the materials that you're going to be using and the likes. These are the inputs, right? These are the things in which you input into your project, right? It's as simple as that. You put in inputs in relation to the problem you intend to solve, right? And then before you come to output, the next item after input is the transformation, which is the throughput. In your transformation phase, what you have is the like as the word implies, to transform. There's a change. The input in which you put in, there has to be a change in relation to that particular project. It converts itself. That's the conversion phase of your project. The activity is converted into milestones and deliverables. These milestones and deliverables now becomes your outcome, which is the output. So you put in some particular resources, it is transformed, it is changed within the system, and then it comes out as what? As output. It comes out as results, deliverables, right? It comes out as deliverables. And then each of these deliverables, it's expected that you do what? You assess them, you evaluate them. You evaluate them in line with your initial objective, the goal of your project. If you meet the goal of your project, then you reinforce that particular activity. If it does not meet the goal of your project, what happens? Then it implies that you will need to change that particular activity. So now the evaluation of your output to determine if it is meeting the goal of your project or not is what we refer to as what? As the feedback loop. So let's go back to the slide and then we'll look at it from the slide, right? So if you look at the slide now, let me make it bigger. So when you look at this slide now, you realize that, like I said, this is the environment of your project, right? This is the environment, this is the system in itself. It's within a particular environment. Now you have your inputs. Your inputs are what? The human and capital resources that goes into your project. The inputs are the raw material, the human resources in terms of the staff, the capital, the technology, the information that goes into your project. Now, in the transformation phase, which is this place, what happens in this phase is what? The actual activity in itself. This is where the activity happens. The whole project management phase happens in the transformation phase, which is the throughput. At this place, we are going to be talking about how do you coordinate the activities of the employees? How do you coordinate and manage the resources that you have? The operations, the methodology we are going to go about, checking to ensure that you are meeting your milestones, that you are going in the direction in which you intend to go. All these things happen was in the transformation phase. And then at the output, you have the products and the service, right? You have the results of your transformation. Now you realize that there's always what? A feedback that goes back to the inputs. What that implies that if the results you are getting matches your goal for that particular project, what you do, you reinforce that particular activity. But if the activity, the results from that particular activity, if the results from that particular activity is not matching your desired goal, what do? You change methodology, right? So for you to determine that, that's where the feedback loop comes in. That's what we refer to as what? The feedback. All together. So basically these are what? The phase. So you have the environment, you have the input phase, the transformation phase is also the transactional phase. You also have what? The output, and you have the feedback. So basically, this is the idea of the systems approach to a project. And every project is assumed to what? To be within this space. So basically, that's that on the system approach to a project. Can I open up the floor for question? If there's any confusion as relating to the systems approach? Are we fine with the systems approach? Do we understand the system approach?
If you can just repeat the feedback, what are we expecting from the feedback?
Okay. Let's give example. Let's use it. Let's use this as an example. I'm trying to find what I'm going to use an example that will be suitable. Okay. If let me use myself as an example. Yeah. My wife told me that I am developing a big tummy. Are we together?
Yes.
My wife told me that I'm developing a big tummy. I'm getting fat. And I told her jokingly that that would probably be because of COVID. I've been in the house for too long and I've just been eating and sleeping. But the idea is that I've developed a big tummy, right? That itself can become my project. My project now is that I have realized the problem. The problem is that I am getting big and I've developed tummy. Now, I want to have six-pack in the sense that I want to reduce and get back to shape, right? And the inputs that I need to put into that is to probably get myself a running shoe, right? A running shoe and get myself a gym instructor. Are you getting my analogy? Are we together? Are we together, guys?
Yes.
Okay, so I need to get myself a gym instructor. I need to get myself a running shoe. So the running shoe and the gym instructor is my inputs, right? That is my human resources. And then I need to also pay my gym instructor, right? So that's the capital resources. So the gym instructor is the human resources. The capital resources is the money I'm going to pay my gym instructor. And then the material resources is my running shoe, right? Now, at the transformation phase, remember that the goal of this project is to reduce my body size, right? The goal of the project is to reduce my body size. So now, at the transformation phase, we are going to put in work to reducing. So the gym instructor will probably instruct me on what to do. I need to wear my shoe. I need to run every morning for the next 1 week or 2 weeks so that I can reduce my body size and all that. And then in 2 weeks time, I reduce my body size, right? Maybe they told me in the transformation phase that I must not eat some certain kind of food. So I stopped eating, right? I stopped eating. And then in 2 weeks time, my wife looks at me again. Remember, it was my wife that was the origin of this issue. She was the one that identified the fact that I'm getting fat and my tummy has increased, right? So 2 weeks time, she looks at me again and determined and said, this time you have gone too thin. You have grown too thin. Are we together? If she look at me in 2 weeks time and say I've grown too thin, it implies that what I am doing is too much, right? Or maybe I have done too much of the exercise that I was told to do. So what I will need to do is what do you think I will do in that case? Did you get my analogy and my question?
In that case, I would think that you go back to your instructor and try to find out what or where can you just reduce whatever you are doing. It's either the diet or the equipment, the gym equipment that you've been using.
Great. I like that. So I'll go back to my instructor and tell my instructor that we should reduce some of the things I'm doing, right? Did I get that correctly?
Yes.
Good. Now, let's agree that I go back to my instructor And I told my instructor that it seems we are doing too much of this activity. Let us reduce them so that I will be in normal shape. And then we'll reduce some things, right? And then I do it again for another 2 weeks. And then I realized that I have grown too fat again, right? And then she noticed the fact that I'm too fat. What do I do again at this point? I go back again to my instructor to reduce it. Now, what the feedback loop does is that, you see, the point at which my wife looked at me again and said, I am now too thin or too fat, right? And then I have to go back to my instructor. That's the word I'm looking for, going back. Now, when we go back to the instructor, that's the input, and tell my instructor in the input that reduce the activity, which is the transformation. Are you together? Reduce the activity so that I will not become too fat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So basically, that is what happens. So you see, and then if I am doing a particular thing, if probably maybe I was told I was fat, right? I was told I was fat. I employed the gym instructor. We started running as the activity. But 2 weeks later, I am still fat, right? I have not reduced in weight. And then I come back to my wife in 2 weeks and tell her that, how am I looking? She said, boy, we are still fat, right? It implies that the activity in which we have been doing has not been working. You get the idea? So I will go back to my gym instructor and tell him what? I say, gym instructor, all the activity we have been doing is not working. What do you think the gym instructor will do at that point? What would the gym instructor do? These are practical stuff. I would expect a lot of contribution at this point. What would the gym instructor do? If I am still fat after 2 weeks, and I come back to tell the gym instructor that I'm still fat, what do you think is supposed to happen?
In that case, the instructor need to add more of the activities that you need to do and more of your structured diet.
Thank you very much. Basically, that is what it is. You see, as simple as this analogy is, the same thing applies to the bigger projects. You know, I told you that projects are both mini and mega projects, right? As simple and simplify as this analogy is, the same thing applies in every instance, right? So if I am still fat, I realize I'm still fat. The gym instructor needs to what? I need to tell the gym instructor that I'm still fat. And then the gym instructor needs to what? Increase the activity which I do. And then in 2 weeks' time, we'll check out what the outcome. So that is how it operates. It is on a cycle. It's a virtuous cycle. It continues on and on and on till we get the final results in which you want to do. So what happens is that you put in a particular input, which is the gym instructor. The gym instructor instructs us to what? To run. We run. We do some certain activity. We check out the results. If the result is good, what we do is that we maintain the same result. We maintain the same activity because we are achieving the results in which we intend to achieve. Are we together?
Patrick,
Yeah, go ahead.
In this case of a feedback, just to, because the question was that how does the feedback fit in here? So I just want to see if I am getting this right. It's where the inputs, which is the instructor, goes to transformation, which is the activities that he instructed you to do.
Yes.
And then after the transformation, it's the output where you are checking the results. Then if the results, they are fine, still you need to give the feedback to the inputs, which is, so I think that is where the the question comes in, where does the feedback fit in here? I think they were not able to see where does the feedback fits, but now I can see it. I don't know if the others, does this make clear to them? Because you keep continuing explaining the one and the same thing now. That is why I'm
Yes.
trying to see. Yeah.
Yes, no, that's the idea. It's the idea is that I am repeating myself on purpose so that it sinks in for everybody, right? Because the thing is that, you know, in some instance, some of us understand once it is said. Some of us need repetition for it to be understood. You get that?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the essence of my repetition, right? I do the repetition on purpose. And sometimes you see I repeat the same word over and over again, so that it sinks in for everybody. So using the gym instructor, what you just said now is the perfect analogy of what it is. We can use the idea of recooking. If you put in too much salt, you realize that too much seasoning, you realize that the results of whatever you are trying to prepare is going to be skewed, right? So that's how the feedback itself works. The feedback reinforces your inputs, right? It's either you continue what you are doing or you change gear in the sense of either increasing or decreasing what you are doing. So it's either you maintain what you are doing, you increase it, or you decrease it. So basically that is how the system work, right? And it applies to the entirety of your projects. Either a small project like the gym instructor, a small project like reducing weight, or a big project like reducing poverty in KZN, or in South Africa, or in Africa as it is, right? So every project work within this particular analogy that we just gave now. Are we together? Can we continue? Any other question? I'm happy to repeat myself if you want me to repeat myself. So don't bother about that. If you want me to repeat myself, just go ahead. Otherwise, give me a sign to continue. Can we move to the next thing? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, like I said, these are the components of a system. The environment, the input, the transaction, output, feedback, and outcomes. I think I've explained this from the diagram, so I will not need to disturb myself about that. And then the project management itself has systems. I'm going to skip the project management system. I'm just going to discuss them in passing for the sake of time, because I want to discuss the SWOT analysis, very important. So when we talk about the project management system, we have 7 components of the project management system. We have the human system, we have the method system, the cultural, organizational, planning information, as well as the control systems. So these are important, right? So when we talk about the human system, as the word implies, we're talking about the human factor of a project, right? You're talking about all the staff that are involved in your project. And as a project manager, you need to be able to coordinate this human system in terms of leadership, negotiation, team building, motivation, communication, and decision making in the human system. And then the method system, the method has to do with the protocol, what's the tools in which you decide to use for your project. The cultural system, like we imply, has to do with how you intend to do your project, right? You realize that in every project, there are different styles to it. That's why when you go to a particular project, so people will tell you that this is not the way we do things, but this is how we do things. They're talking about what the culture of the system, the behavior, the value system, what are the attitude of your staff, right? The tradition of the people. Every organization has a culture, and you need to understand the culture of that particular organization. The same thing applies to a project. It has a way of life. It has a belief, attitude, it has values and the likes. One needs to be familiar with that. And then the organizational subsystem needs to be familiar with that. What is the hierarchy of authority? Who is responsible for what? Who is accountable for what? That is what you will be concerned with in the organizational subsystem, right? So please take note of that. And then the planning subsystem, it is the planning subsystem you want to design, you want to design the activities, how the activity will go by, right? The whole, from the proposal to the end of the project, happens in the planning subsystem. The time frame for the project, the budget for the project, the costs and everything is determined in the planning subsystem of your project. And then the information subsystem, you need to be familiar with what is available in the environment. Like we are discussing today, what are the events that are happening currently in the environment that can affect your project, that you need to be concerned about. And then also in the information, you need to be passing the correct information to your downlines, to your subordinates and the likes. And then the control subsystem, this is where you do the proper coordination of your project. So basically that's that on the subsystem of a project, right? So quick one. What are the factors that affect a project, that affect the success of a project? What are the things that affect the success of a project? I know this is a minute to 12. Can I ask for the next 10 minutes? Because we started late, just give me the next 10 minutes and then we end the class. Is that fine?
Yes, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so quickly, in 2 minutes, can we contribute to the factors that contribute to the success of a project? What are the things to consider?
Performance.
Yes, performance.
Time and scope.
Time and scope. Yes, these are the constraints. What are the, yes. So let me give you an idea. When we discuss a project, right, the factors that contribute to the success of a project are the budget constraint, like we just raised now. The time, the scope, the performance, and the likes, right? And in simple terms, we said that the success of a project is determined by how it is planned, how well it is planned, how clear the problem is defined. That's how well was the problem defined, and how realistic is the deadline for the project. It goes back to what our discourse on project constraint: the time, the costs, the performance, as well as the scope. So when we discuss the scope, we are going to be looking at how well is the problem defined. We'll discuss the performance. You'll be asking yourself, how was the problem well defined, right? And when we talk about time and costs, you'll be talking about how realistic is your project. And when we talk about the realisticness of a project, we are going to be looking at the SMART strategy. Are you familiar with the SMART strategy? You know what SMART is, right? Any idea what SMART is? I suppose you must have heard this before. Yes, Musa?
Oh, yes. As far as I understand is that if you are talking about SMART strategy or SMART principle, S stands for specific, M measurable, A achievable, R realistic, and time bound.
Thank you very much.
Yes, yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, I will make an example of our objectives or our performance indicators in our department. that in order for us to achieve a certain target that we have set aside for ourselves, that we need to have a performance indicator, the indicator that will be showing us whether are we in a right track in achieving the particular goal that we have set for ourselves. Then by so doing, we need to make sure that whatever objective or that indicator that we do have should be within the scope or should comply with the SMART principle in such a way that, let's say we wanted to achieve, let's say, I'm making an example for a human settlement, that, for instance, they need to build, let's say, 100 houses for people. And then let's say by a period of 6 months, then they must also go back to the drawing board to see whether that is that a particular indicator specific? Is it measurable in terms of numbers? Is it achievable in terms of resources? Is it realistic that within 6 months they would be, those 100 houses will be built? Then also bearing in mind that within that particular time frame, it should be completed. Then that's where this SMART principle, according to my own understanding, fits in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a beautiful example and very practical. Yes, Boniswa, you are about saying something? Boniswa? Okay, I think I need to mute this person. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for that contribution, Musa. That's perfect. Like that's basically the idea of the SMART strategy, or the SMART principle, as you will call it: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Right? So for a project to be successful, that needs to come into effect. I'm not going to bore you with these reasons why projects fail, but all these reasons we raise here for project failure speaks to this point. If it is not well planned, if the problem is not clearly defined problem in the sense of how is it measurable, achievable, realistic, right, and the likes, then we are going to be having this point that has been raised, right? If your project objective is not clear, you do not involve the right people and the likes. So you can read up on the reasons why projects fail. I won't bore you with this. And then when it comes to the project management processes, there is the 5 W's and H approach to project process and planning. So in this case, you look at the 5 phases, right? So first, we'll talk about the project initiation phase. That's the first phase in project planning, right? The project management process. First is the initiation, whereby you select the resources, you decide, you assign manager, you prepare the documents to sanction the project and the likes. These are the things in which you do here. Here, you are looking at the visibility of a project, you're looking at the specification of the project and the stakeholders that are supposed to be involved in your project. Right? So this is what you look at the initiation phase, right? And then these are the things in which you need to identify in the project initiation phase. You list the current project and the project idea, you determine the opportunity and need for that project, you establish the project constraint in the sense of time, in the sense of budget and scope, you judge the visibility of the project, you establish the risks that are available in that project as well as the failure associated with that project. You review the lists, you look at your goals and objectives, you eliminate those that needs to be eliminated at this point, in the sense of coming up with your scale of preference, right? You eliminate the ones that are with the higher risks, and then you select the most important things in which you need to consider for your project. So this is what you do at the project initiation phase. The next is the project planning phase. In the project planning phase, this is where you do what? You define the work that needs to be done to complete that particular project. Here you are defining the work requirements, you are defining the quality and the quantity of work that needs to be done, the resources that is needed to do that particular work, the activities of each of the human resource that you'll be using, and then the evaluation of the risks that are also involved in each of this process. In the project execution phase, like the word implies, execution, the first phase of your project planning and project initiation, they are just ideas, right? It's at the execution phase that you carry out the implementation of your project in itself. So here, there's a need for a lot of coordination, negotiation, and direction for that particular project. This is where you know you exhibit all the qualities of a good project manager. It is at the project execution phase. And then project execution and project monitoring go simultaneously. Once you start executing the project, you must take track of your progress. That's when you discuss your milestones and your deliverables, right? You want to ensure that you are going in the direction in which you intend your project to go, right? That's what happens at what? At the monitoring phase, the monitoring and the control phase. You look at the risks, you manage the risks, adjust at the cost of your project. In most cases, the proposal you have for a project, it is in most cases not going to be what you are going to implement, in the sense that what you set out to do, when you go to the field, you realize that there are always changes. Things will happen. It may be political change, it may be environmental changes, it may be cultural changes. Some things will not go as planned. In most cases, projects don't go as planned, right? You must be able to think on your feet to ensure that once the project is going in a particular direction, you can navigate in the course of looking at the factors in which you are on ground to determine what you must do. So basically, that is what happens at the monitoring and the control phase. And like we said, the essence of a project management is, one of the things is that you discover the problem early and you'll be able to address the problem before it escalates and become a disaster, right? So that's what happened at this phase. And then at the project closure is, like we said, a project has a life cycle. It has a beginning and an end. The project closure is the end. Project initiation is the beginning of a project. Project closure is the end of the project. At this point, we are concluding on the phase. We are closing up on the financial aspect of you are crossing your T's at this point, right? Trying to close up on the financial aspect of your project, ensuring that everything is balanced. You're ensuring that the paperwork are done in the sense of the reports you need to give for your projects and the likes. So basically, that's what happens in the project closure phase. And in this place, you need to, these are the things in which you need to do: completion review, notice to complete, identifying the remaining work that needs to be done, in the sense that you probably may not finish, conclude on the entirety of what you intend to do. Probably maybe it is bigger than what your project can accomplish. You identify this, and then the essence of you writing a report on this termination phase is to assist other projects that will come after yours, right? When we discuss project sustainability, we'll discuss more on this, in the sense that your project, you design your project in such a way that even when you conclude the project, others can pick up from where you stop, so that they don't have to repeat the errors you had or repeat what you have done before. So basically, that's what happens in this phase. right? I will not bore you with managing a project. You can read up on managing a project. Also have 6 phases. In this place, you define your problem, you develop the solution to your problem, you plan how you execute it, then you execute it, you monitor it, and then you close the project. It's the same thing like the project process. The difference is that at this point, you have one more point, which is what? Definition of your problem. So basically that's that. So I want to dwell on this, and then I will conclude with the SWOT analysis. I will end the class with the SWOT analysis. Now, we are familiar with the SMART analysis. We also need to be familiar with the SWOT analysis of our project. When we talk about the SWOT analysis of our project, SWOT means identifying the strengths of your project, the weakness, the opportunity, and the threats in your project. It is important, right? In as much as you are concerned about the SMART, you must also be concerned about the SWOT. And in most cases, we discuss the SWOT of our project when we are designing the project. In the project proposal phase of the project, you need to identify what are the basic strengths of this project. What can we take advantage of, right? That's the opportunities. What are the weaknesses of this project? What are the things in which we need to strengthen? And then what are the basic strengths or the risks for our projects? So these are the things in which we consider in our discourse of the SWOT analysis. And an efficient project manager needs to look at the SWOT analysis. Also, you need to look at the pest analysis, right? Pest analysis this time is looking at the political, economic, social, and technological features of your environment to determine your SWOT analysis. For you to be able to carry out an efficient SWOT analysis, you must have carried out an efficient pest analysis. That is looking at, remember our system approach to projects, looking at the environment of your projects, right? You must understand the political environment of your project, the economic environment of your project, social as well as the technological environment of your project at all times for you to be able to what? Do a proper SWOT analysis of your project. Now, when we discuss the SWOT analysis of a project, these are the things you will need to consider. Let me bring this down so that you can see. Okay, I'll take it back up when we. So, in discussing the strength of your project, you will need to look at your organizational capabilities. What is the capability? You look at that. You look at the resources that are available to you, the asset and the people in which you have, right? The experience that you have within your organization, the financial resources you have, the location, your geographical location can also be a strength, right? The cultural and behavioral characteristics of your organization, the management success and support you have, as well as the succession protocol within your organization. All these can be, you need to look at this. All these can also can form the strengths of the organization, right? And then you also look at the weakness of that you can identify for your project. What are the gaps? While you're looking at strength in the sense of the organizational capability of your organization, you also look at the organizational incapability of your organization in the sense of the gap in the capacity of your organization, right? What is the reputation, the strength, and the reach of your organization or of that project? What is the reach of that project? What are your financial concerns? The timelines and the resources that you have, and the reliability of data. Can the data in which you have gathered, in the sense of the information you have, are they reliable information? Can you stand on them? These are some of the weaknesses in which you look at. And your strengths as well as your weakness are always internal to your projects, right? They are internal. While the opportunity and the threats of your project are always external to your project, right? So strength, weakness, internal, opportunity, threats, external. Please take note of that. When we talk about opportunities, you are looking at the information that is available for you. You're looking at the technological information, innovations that are available within the environment. You are looking at developments that have happened within the environment. You are looking at the service and products that are available for you to use, right, within the environment. And then under the threats, you also want to consider what is the policy of that particular environment, that's political and legislative policies, the environmental effects of your projects. Are there technologies that can threaten your project, right? Your service or ideas, right? You want to look at the stakeholders that are involved. The stakeholders in that particular environment, will they serve as an opportunity for your project or a threat to your project? Opportunity in the sense that, will they support your project? Will they form part of the strength of the project? Or will they hammer on the project and not allow the project to be successful? So these are some of the things in which you want to look at. And then, what is the sustainability factor of your project? So in discussing your SWOT analysis, you must identify this. You must be able to identify these points to determine if your project has a chance for survival. That's the reason why we do a SWOT analysis. We want to see if the project itself has a chance of survival. And you want to, based on your SWOT analysis, to be able to convince your stakeholders and your funders on the reason why your project must be implemented. So after identifying the problem, you must be able to carry out this particular analysis, looking at the strength, the weakness, opportunity, and threats of your project. Okay. I'm going to pause here and ask if there are questions. Questions? Or is this clear? Yes, go ahead, Musa.
Yes, actually, I would like to take you just a step back a little bit to these 5 steps of project management. You spoke of, I think I'm not too sure because it doesn't appear on the screen. Yeah, but you spoke of monitoring and evaluation. I think so. There's a yes. Oh yes, monitor and progress and control progress. To say, can this 5th step be a standalone, or it can be roped in even on the first phase or first stage? Let me just make an example of this plan, the project, of which is at phase. Is it not possible for me as a project manager also to monitor even on that phase? Like when we are planning, then while at the same time I'm monitoring whether my plan can lead to the achievement of the objective that I'm planning to achieve.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I'm trying to follow these steps, but I can see maybe where I'm sitting that maybe I can also rope in this 5th stage even on the third phase. On the third phase.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm going to answer it in 2 phases. If you remember when we defined what a project is, we said they are simultaneous and sequential, right?
Okay.
Simultaneous in the sense that they happen the same time. Sequential in the sense that one leads to the other, right? So there are these steps in itself, they are interwoven, right? Sometimes you can link one to the other, you get. But in most cases, in as much as we can say that we are monitoring the planning phase. But the idea is that the planning phase itself is where you are trying to design the project in itself. At that point, you have not started implementing. To monitor will be to look at what you have done, right? In reference to the central objective of your project, right? So even at the planning stage, yes, it is still visible at that point to say, okay, it's still visible at that point to say, probably, okay, you want to see if you are doing the right, if you are designing the right design for the problem in which you want to achieve. Yes, you can monitor at that point, but in most cases, your monitoring of the project happens after it has been executed, after the plan has been executed. That is why at the stage 1 to 3 of your project, whereby you identify a problem, you develop the solution, and then the plan on how to execute that project. At that point, it is still a roadmap. I think that's the right word for it, right? It's a roadmap at that point. After executing, then you now want to ask yourself, are you actually following your roadmap? Does that make sense?
Yes. No, I get your point. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, any other question? You are welcome to take me anywhere in the project, anywhere in the topics, the stuff we have covered, and we can quickly analyze it in a few minutes. So like I said, the difference between the project management process and this, right? And the step in managing the process is the fact that in the project management process, we start from the initiation phase. We did not talk about the identification of a problem, right? While in the project management step, you first need to identify a problem. If I use the example of the housing that you raised, Musa, I'm going to say that first and foremost, we identify the fact that, let's say in KZN, we can say we realize that there are a lot of households in KZN that have housing is an issue in KZN. Spatial planning is an issue entirely in Africa. And in KZN, it is even severe. So for that reason, there's a need for us to provide housing for low and middle income households. That is the problem. We have defined the problem in itself. Then now we want to develop solution to that problem. So our solution now will not be that, okay, now there has to be what? The provision of provision of housing settlements for households in KZN. Then it goes back to in determining our solutions. That's the solution in itself, right? We just need to bring about housing. Then in discussion of the plan, now we have a problem. The problem is there is no housing. The solution is provide house, right? We want to take you to this point so that we pick that. This is an interesting example, and I would love to use it. Remember when I said that a project is a problem scheduled for solution, right? So now the problem is that there is no housing. That's the problem. The solution is provide housing for the people. That's the solution. Then the next point we need to consider is to make a plan. Now, in making a plan, we say we need to provide 1,000 houses in 6 months. That is our plan. But in that plan, we now need to ask ourselves, is our plan SMART, right? So that's why we now start looking at how specific it is, how measurable it is, how realistic it is. Is this possible within the time frame in which we determine, right? So we look at that. Is our plan SMART, right? If our plan is SMART, that we see that we can actually achieve 1,000 houses in 6 months, Then we go into execution, right? In the execution phase, we start executing, and then we start, because we told ourselves that if we want to achieve 1,000 houses in 6 months, it implies that every month we're supposed to have a minimum of 300 houses. So in the course of the month, we now look at it and ask ourselves, what are the milestones for us to be able to do that? Milestone will now be that we now determine that we must have purchased the land to build the houses on by this particular day. So by the end of September, we must have purchased the land, and then we must have bought the house materials to build the house. We should have contracted contractors to build the house. These are our milestones. So in monitoring the project, we must now look at, have we purchased the land? Have we contracted materials, and on and on and on and on like that? So these are the things in which we look at, right? Right. So basically that's in the execution and in the monitoring phase. And then at that place also control also happen. We also want to determine if we have done what's, how do we manage the human and capital resources that comes with that particular project. And then you can also link it. I'm linking up this example with the entire things in which we have discussed today. We can also link it with the system environment, for instance, with the system approach. While we are building this house, we also want to ask ourselves, are these people very active politically, or they are passive? Would they determine what happens within the building itself? Do we have to give the whole building to ANC supporters, or we need to have some bit of EFF, or do we just give it all to GA and the like? So these are some of the things in which we play around as we continue in the project. And then very importantly, we also want to ask ourselves, what are the strengths of that particular project? What are the obvious weaknesses in which we think we have in that project? And what is the weakness? What's the threats that we think will happen in that particular project? And what's the last one of SWOT? The strengths, the weakness, the opportunity, as well as the threats. So basically that's how these things operate. They are interwoven and they work together. Yes, I think I've talked for enough time. I'm still going to open it up for any question before we end the class. Any question or contribution at this point? Question or contribution, anything you want me to dwell on, or we are all fine? Any question? Okay. If there are no questions, I'm going to end the class here. And then I will quickly tell you, I'm going to post my assignment in, I'm going to do my assignment today. And then I'm going to give you guys, I will expect a submission on the 26th of September. All right? That will be in 3 weeks' time. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to bring out the question, and then we can ask questions as relating to the question, and then we end the class. Okay. Am I sharing the entirety of my screen? Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
So you're seeing everything that is in my file.
Able.
Okay. I was not planning to share the whole of my screen, but that's fine. Okay, so this is going to be our that's too small, right? I'm going to post it though on I'm going to post it on the Moodle so you can have an access to it. But I'm just going to put it here so that if you have any question and you need explanation, I'll be able to explain. So what you're going to be doing is that you are going to pick up a project, whatever project whatsoever. Just decide on a project on your own. That will be your case study. So you will use that project and explain a system approach to projects. Altogether, using the project of your choice, you are going to explain the systems approach. And then using that same project, you perform a SWOT analysis of that project. Does that make sense? That's all what it is. Well, that's what the assignment is all about. Does that make sense? Do you get that?
Patrick,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Patrick,
Go ahead.
I just want to ask, a system approach, you are saying that we are going to use our own project management scenario.
Yes.
So, what I want to ask is that, okay, we are going to explain, are we explaining the system approach to a project management in our own? Oh, all right.
Yes, you are going to be explaining what a system approach is. Then you will use your own projects. You decide a project on your own. You use that project to explain the systems approach.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think now I am getting it. But if I get stuck, I'll just email you.
Yeah, you use that same project to explain a systems approach. And also the same project that you use to explain a system approach, you use that to perform a SWOT analysis. Let me use Musa's example, the one he gave us about their department. In their department, they did a housing project, right? Musa, am I correct? Is Musa still with us?
In fact, I was just making an example with the Department of Human Settlement, but that is not my department. It's
Okay,
okay.
great. Yeah. Great. We can just use that example, for instance, the Department of Human Settlement as relating to that. So now, if the housing project is the example we want to use, using that particular project, you want to explain the systems approach, right? And it implies that you need to explain the whole components of the systems approach, right? The environment, the environments, the inputs, the outputs, the transformation that transpired, and what's the last one? The feedback. All together. So basically that's what you will be explaining. And then using the same housing project, you will now explain the SWOT analysis of that same project. All together. Does that make sense?
Yes, you do make sense, but I wish also just to get a guide.
Yeah.
How many pages maybe are you looking for so that one will have a clear understanding?
I am expecting a maximum of 2 pages. Maximum.
Oh, 2 pages.
Yes, maximum of 2 pages. So this is what this is how I expect you to do the writing. First and foremost, every statement you make, you must have in-text referencing. There must be a citation to anything you say, right? What do I mean by that? If I ask you now, Musa, let me use you as an example, right? What is your name?
My name?
Yes.
I'm Musa and my surname is Ntombela.
Okay, can you say that in a sentence? Now I'm asking you a question. What is your name?
My name is Musa Ntombela.
You are wrong. If you write that for me in my assignments, I'm going to fail you. Are we together?
Yes, yes, yes.
The reason I'm going to fail you is that how do you know that your name is Musa? How do you know?
Yes, I would say if I can answer that question.
Mhm.
My parents gave me that name. I saw it from my birth certificate.
Thank you very much. Now, in answering that question, you're going to say, according to my birth certificate, right? According to my birth certificate in 1900, my name is Musa Tombela. Or you say, my name is Musa Tombela, birth certificate 1900. Does that make sense?
Yes, now I'm with you. Thanks.
So basically, that is what is expected. So I'm going to say, I want to give that now. So this is correct. All together. This is correct. But the first one, this one is wrong. So first one is wrong, second one is correct. You get the idea? All together, guys? Please
Yes,
I
it
use
does.
time. Yeah. So what I imply is that anything you say, please make sure you reference it. There should be a reference to what you've said, right? Another way to write this is to say, according to SA Bed SAT 2022, all together. So these two are correct, but the first is wrong, right? So this one I'm going to put in brackets. Wrong, right? And then this one is correct. And this is also correct. So please take note of this, please. There has to be in-text referencing for everything you do, right? So please take notes. So this is what I expect from you. Please don't just make statements. For instance, you may just talking about housing and you tell us that KZN has a problem of housing and you leave it there. Who said so? Where did you get that information from, right? Even if you are the commissioner for housing, you should be able to tell us that according to the commissioner for housing or something, you get that? And give us the source of where you got that information from, not just put it there. So that's what we imply by in-text referencing. And then at the end of the day, all these references must appear in your number 4, right? They must appear as your bibliography, where you now write the detailed reference of what you have used, right? Now, also take note that in your introduction, I expect you to answer in your introduction, give us an overview of the problem. You will give an overview of the problem of your project, right? Then briefly state your project, right? So you give an overview of the problem of your project, briefly state your project, and then states the aim of the assignment. So these 3 things must reflect in your in your, these three things more reflect in your introduction. Does that make sense? So you discuss the overview of the problem of your project. So in this case, we are discussing housing. So I'm going to be discussing here, let me say the problem and solution, right? So here I will discuss housing, right? I will discuss housing and the problem of housing in KZN, right? Obviously, let's just discuss the problem. The solution will be discussed when you state your project. Sorry about that. So briefly state your project and so you at that point you state the solution to that project, and then you discuss the aim of your assignment. The idea of discussing the aim of your stating the aim of your assignment is, I want to know if you actually understand the assignment in what you are trying to do, right? Now, based on your project that you have identified, that you have raised in your introduction, then you now discuss the system. So first, in your body of the work, A, systems approach, right? So in discussing systems approach, I will expect you to do what? Explain what is a system, right? And then I'm taking my time to do this so that you have little or no need to reach out to me because you have everything you need here. Explain the system, what the system, explain the system components. Explain the system's components. You explain the system components in relation to your project, right? And then you move to B. B is what? SWOT analysis, right? Under B, SWOT analysis, what are you doing here too? Does this make sense? Then you conclude and then you give a reference, right? And what is your conclusion? Okay. Yeah. So basically that's for the assignments. Any question as we conclude?
I think your submission date as well. Just check at the bottom.
Okay, submission date is not 7. Submission date is submission date. If I say 7, that will be in 2 days time. Okay, so submission date is when did I say submission date? 19th, right?
26.
You're giving us 3 weeks.
Okay.
From today.
26th. There will be no extension. from these 26? Please take note, right? I'm supposed to say 19 so that I will not give you 1 week extension. Then you will not say I'm a nice guy. But now I don't have opportunity to be a nice guy because now I've said 26. Okay. So does that make sense?
Yes, can I ask something?
Please go ahead.
Yes. It's just, I don't know if you've mentioned it because my network is on and off.
Okay.
How many pages or words are we expected?
2 pages.
How many?
2 pages.
Two.
Two pages.
1, 2.
1, 2, yes.
Oh, thank you.
Is it possible for us to get this presentation that you have gone through on
Yes.
LEARN 2022?
Yes, I'm going to upload it after now.
Oh, thank you.
And I'll also upload this video, this recording of this Zoom. I'll also upload it on LEARN.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, any other question before we end the class? We have overshot our time by 49 minutes. Technically, we have ended up spending the 3 hours, which makes it 4 hours of being in this class now. I said I was going to end by 12, but I'm sorry that I did not end at 12. This is almost 1 o'clock. And I hope I've not been too boring for the past 3 hours. So,
sorry, Prof. Can I ask something as well?
Yeah.
Are we choosing the? Okay, I don't know how to put it, but do I choose the project I want to write on, or it's just just writing under what is system, or do I use okay, how do I put it? Okay, do I pick the examples that I will base my the system approach and SWOT analysis, or it's just that I'm only discussing what is given here, the system approach, the SWOT analysis?
You have to discuss your own project. You will be the one to choose your project yourself, right?
Okay.
All you just need to do is that using the project of your choice, explain the system's approach, right? And then using the project of your choice, explain SWOT analysis. So that's what happens. You're going to be the one to determine the projects, and the most important is that in the introduction of your assignment, you must explain the project in the introduction of assignment so that I get the context to which you are explaining the system and the SWOT analysis. You get? So that's all I need. If you just go into explaining SWOT analysis and systems without explaining what the project is all about, I may mix it up. And if I mix it up, I will give you the score that you deserve, right? But for you to get the appropriate score, then you must have done a proper introduction. Okay. Any other question? Okay, if there are no questions, I think it will be safe to end the class here. Tomorrow, Maximino will be coming in to continue the session, and then I will join you again on Thursday to discuss project management documentation, and then we'll pick it up from there. Hopefully, if you have any challenge between now and Thursday, you just let me know. And
thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm going to post all these things on Moodle just now, and then you have access to them too.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Sorry,
bye.
Doc, we will be able to get the recording also.
Yes, I'm going to post all on
all right.
on LEARN after now.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a nice day, guys.
Thank
You
you.
too. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye bye.